Hello, live people. Patrick Beja is here. And he's been away for a couple of weeks, which gives him the hiccups now when we go live, apparently.
It's a very strange affliction. It's only for a few seconds when we go live, but, you know.
And those of you who know and are wondering, no baby yet. So he figured this is the Finnish version of inducement, is put the father on a podcast.
I think I've done like 5 since I thought I had to stop. And
so. I like how you're like, can I be on my show again tomorrow? I mean, maybe.
I don't know. I feel like I'm cheating on the baby or something. That's not yet, but really, it's the baby that's
is cheating on you apparently.
Yeah.
I was something. 2 weeks.
It's an introverted baby.
Yeah, I was 2 weeks late when I was born.
2 weeks. Wow.
I was 3.
Wow, 3.
And yeah, which is funny because I was a really big baby, but I'm a very small person. It's like I wasn't actually a big baby. I was always supposed to be small. I just baked too long.
Yeah, I was the same way.
I screwed everything up for my mother.
Well, this one is relatively big already, so.
Well, it's all very exciting.
Yes.
We can't wait for your baby to be born within the next half hour.
Or for us to know the only mom and dad who just never escaped pregnancy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're at the end.
Don't say that. You're a scientific miracle.
What I want to know is how multilingual is this baby going to be?
So that's going to be interesting because I'm going to speak French to it. My wife is going to speak Swedish. The third language is probably going to be English to an extent. And then it's going to have to learn Finnish because of school. That's the language they use in most schools because the country is bilingual. But so, yeah, you start with 3 to 4 languages already. And we wouldn't mind it learning a little bit of Russian and Japanese. So I don't know. That might be a little bit too much for the first, 2 years. So maybe we'll space them out.
I mean, the baby might pick up Japanese just from the fact that you guys like Japanese stuff. And
we're already planning a trip to Japan in a year. So hopefully we'll manage to instill it with a sense of wonder and love for the language.
All right. Shall we do this show then?
Let us
wait a second.
Let us show.
Yeah, no screaming. All right, we can start.
No, check. No? Okay, good. Sarah, if you would do the opening, please.
Of course.
In 3, 2.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018 from DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Old Fogtown, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from the Helsinki offices in Finland, I'm Patrick Beja.
Wait. Before we introduce our guest, Patrick Beja, what are you doing here? I thought you were on paternity leave.
So you know how I was born ready for every show we've done?
Sure. Yeah, no, we have a t-shirt that says it. We even have a onesie that says it now.
Oh, you do? Oh, all right. I forgot. But turns out my baby is going to be born very, very, very ready because it's really like getting ready for a long time. We're a week overdue. So I figured, hey, I might as well do a DTNS while we wait.
Well, we're glad to have you. And we're glad your baby is like a wizard and arrives exactly when it means to. Joining us today is Myke Cole. Myke is a cyber threat intelligence analyst. He has been either staff or contractor at the CIA, the FBI, DIA, ONI, U.S. Coast Guard, often in cyber roles, has a background in counterterrorism, has done 3 tours in Iraq, or spins, as he says, and author of fantastic books and star of CBS reality TV Hunted. Myke, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
We're going to talk to Myke a little bit later about what the law enforcement side of this whole encryption debate and surveillance and security and cybersecurity and all of that. So we really appreciate you being willing to chat with us about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Our producer, Roger Chang, is here as well. Roger, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Good.
Excellent. Well, then let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Twitter's chief operating officer, Anthony Noto, has resigned to be the CEO at financial technology company Social Finance, aka SoFi. He'll join SoFi in March. Twitter says that Noto's duties will be assumed by other members of Twitter's leadership team, so it doesn't sound like they're replacing him, at least not right away.
Thanks to Instagram Stories integrating Giphy, you can now add GIFs to your stories on Android and iOS. A GIF option will show up when you choose to add a sticker.
Thank you for doing the alternating pronunciation.
That was amazing. I've never heard anybody do that in the same sentence.
Acer's 11.6-inch Spin 11 convertible Chromebook has been announced. It includes USB-C, a couple of USB-C ports, works with Wacom EMR styluses. In fact, one model will include a stylus from Wacom. Starts at $349 for the 32-gigabyte version and arrives in North America in March.
DJI announced its Mavic Air quadcopter will start at $799, shipping on January 28th. Mid-range model between the Mavic Spark and Mavic Pro. The Air has a 4K camera and can fly 21 minutes on a charge.
Makes me want a drone. Google introduced an audiobook sections into the Google Play Store Tuesday. You can access the audiobooks after purchase on the web in the Google Books app for Android and iOS through Google Assistant on Android devices.
Good for Google Home users. Yeah.
Yep.
And now we got some more top stories to talk about. Sarah, what do we have?
Well, let's start with some good news for anybody who's looking for a HomePod, because Apple announced its HomePod wireless speaker will arrive in stores February 9th and will be available for pre-order starting this Friday, January 26th in the US, the UK, and Australia. The HomePod retails for $349 in the US, £319 in the UK. It'll be $499 Australian dollars in Australia, and was originally slated for launch in late 2017. So not super late, but did miss the holiday season.
Just in time for Valentine's Day.
If you love me, you know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, everybody at CES was talking about the absence of the HomePod on the scene as Google and Amazon were going head to head to try to get their voice platforms everywhere. Of course, Apple doesn't usually put its platforms everywhere. It wants you to buy its stuff and work in its ecosystem. So I'm not sure that it really hurts them to have it delayed as long as this works well for the people who like it. I'll have to be honest, I'm not all that interested in getting one, though.
I'm not interested in getting one just because I already have, I have two Sonos Ones, which have hooked into Amazon's Gal. And, you know, Siri I use on my phone almost daily. I've gotten really used to it, but it's not something that the two are pretty interchangeable, at least for this kind of stuff the tasks I'm asking for or the information that I'm pulling from either one. So unless you are really hooked into Siri as an ecosystem on a lot of devices, I don't know what, the big incentive would be. Although Apple also likes to tout that it's, the best quality of everything. And if it's truly the best sounding speaker and you're going to use it for music quite often and even replace maybe larger speakers, then they might have something there, but otherwise it just seems a little late to the game to me.
Yeah, for us in Europe, the Amazon Echo and the Google Home aren't very accessible. I mean, they're not sold in, I don't think, even on Amazon yet, or on the Google Play Store, very limited amounts. And the high quality angle that Apple is pushing might get some people interested, but as you said, Tom, I think Apple is going to sell to Apple customers anyway, so it's not even really the same target.
Myke, I'm curious if you use any of these voice platforms, whether it's Amazon, Google, or Siri.
No, I don't, and it's probably not going to surprise you that, and some of this is paranoia. When all you got's a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and when you spend your entire life looking at how people hack each other and pursuing computer crime, you develop, whether rational or not, a kind of an interest in keeping the gates closed. So it makes me super uncomfortable. Anything that's TCP/IP enabled, anything that has some kind of connection to, even through VPN, even through an encrypted connection to the internet, raises my radar. And the reality of it is, in a lot of cases, manufacturers don't give you the kind of admin access that I would need to be comfortable lock down and secure these devices. I don't even have a PS4 or a video game console in my apartment for the same reason.
All right, but this is not worse than any other connected device, is it? It doesn't.
No, I want to. This is definitely me being me. This is not. Right. I don't have any reason to believe it's less secure.
Right. Everyone has computers and phones anyway, so
yeah, for sure.
DuckDuckGo is updating its mobile app and browser extension to offer ratings of sites based on their use of encryption and ad tracking, as well as summaries of terms of service. It also includes the ability to block ad tracking that has not received a user's permission. The app and extension are available for Firefox, Safari, Chrome, iOS, and Android.
This seems like it would be more appealing to you, Myke. This is helping you lock down stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the ultimate. You can always tell somebody in the security field, because if we had our way, I would chain a cinder block to every microprocessor-enabled device and sink it in the East River, because then we would all be safe. No one would be able to hack it.
I think it's really interesting that DuckDuckGo is going from search, privacy in search, to a wider concept of privacy for its users.
Yeah, branching out and providing something that is very similar to what Privacy Badger provides, but from for some people anyway, your existing search company. Christopher Horvath, formerly of the Oculus Story Studio, has introduced a new open source unit for measuring time called Flicks, meant for use when working on video. A flick is 1/705,600,000th of a second, just a bit longer than a nanosecond. Flicks divide evenly into the common frames per second measures. So for instance, if a video is 24 frames per second, each frame of that video is 0.416666 repeating seconds long. That's a hard number to work with, but it's 29,400,000 flicks, a nice round number. And if you're familiar with the vagaries of NTSC frame rates, the weird 23.976 frames per second, that's often called 24 frames per second, is 29,429,400 flicks. Again, nice round number. In fact, rounder than the actual frames per second number. Basically, this gets rid of fractions and repeating decimals.
But okay. Thank you.
That's basically my reaction.
I'm just, listen, we're all on a video show right now. I work with video. I edit quite a bit of video. And yes, it's true that, especially in, even back in college when we learned why frame rates were the way that they were, and even then it was a little convoluted. I'm not sure what this is solving, unless you're just saying on paper it's a rounder number.
Yeah, if you're doing precision editing and you can see that nice round flick number in there, that might be helpful rather than constantly seeing these repeating decimal places.
Okay. I mean, go Christopher.
So feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com if you have a use for flick. If you think it's silly like these two, then don't bother writing. We already got that side of the
No.
We're not saying it's silly.
It's just it's definitely not silly. I'm not sure how this changes anything that like anybody would be doing on a regular basis, unless you're just like, you like kind of math nerdy stuff, which is fine.
I think there might be some actual uses in it, but only in niche things like video editing or video game making, when you're really concerned with frames per second.
That's true. Actually, I hope somebody who's sitting there right now saying, well, she doesn't know anything, please do email us, because I want to know. I want to know why I would use this. Flicks. Snap is launching the ability to share public stories with links that will display on Snapchat.com to visitors, whether they're Snapchat users or not. Historically, Snapchat.com just said, hey, download the app if you want to be part of this fun game. At launch, users can share official stories and our stories found in the Discover tabs, with plans to expand beyond that. Users of the redesigned app in Australia and Canada have the feature already, and it'll roll out to Android and iOS users over the next few weeks. It's kind of, this reminds me of what Instagram did some time ago. Instagram used to be app only. If you went to Instagram.com, there was no feed to look at. There were no likes that you could peruse. It was just, this is an app, get the app. And now I actually, if I'm uploading something, I'm still probably using the app because that's where all my photos are, but on iOS. But I go to Instagram.com on desktop quite often. So I guess it's Snap kind of doing a little catch up again.
It's really interesting because to me, this is kind of a change in, well, not a change, it's been happening for a while, but there was a fear a few years ago that the web was going to disappear because, or not disappear, was going to be in a precarious position because everything was moving to apps. And the reality is all of these apps, when they try to grow beyond their internal kind of ecosystem, have to turn back to the web, not just because it's easier, but also because the inherent openness of the web makes it more accessible. So what we feared, which was, the open web is going to be replaced by the closed apps, we're seeing that actually the openness of the web is a huge asset that the closedness of the apps don't have, obviously by design. So this is kind of a hopeful move that all of these apps have to make for me.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's when these companies realize they need to gain users, which Snap definitely needs to do right now. They start to remember the value of the open web versus the advantages of a closed system like an app where you control the experience more and you can mine the data more on people, and you just don't have as much control out on the web.
Yeah, so it seems both have to coexist rather than one replacing the other, which seems fine.
Yeah.
Google has released its Files Go app, which is a storage manager that can share files and help users delete unneeded or unwanted data from their phone. Using machine learning, Files Go can delete good morning messages from WhatsApp. In India, in particular, the habit of sending good morning messages on WhatsApp with an image attached has led to phones' storage being filed up. Apparently, this is a big problem, which is somewhat amusing.
No one has ever said good morning to me on WhatsApp, but I kind of wish that they would more often. That
apparently you don't. Be careful what you wish for, because I didn't realize this was such a huge deal in India where people are like, I don't have any storage on my phone anymore because people are sending me memes every morning. But Myke, I saw you giving the thumbs down to this.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with giving a centralized, algorithm-driven AI run by a major corporation the ability to reach into your electronic device and delete files? I can't imagine where this could blow up in their face. I don't know if you guys recall the issue that Amazon had in some cases where it was revoking books from people's Kindles based on its interpretation of license agreements and the kerfuffle that came out of that. So, I definitely don't want to speak out of school without understanding more of the technology that's involved. But when I think of it directly conceptually, it's pretty, it definitely makes me cock an eyebrow. The comparative technology I'm thinking of is mobile device management, things like AirWatch and Mobile Iron, which have the ability to manage mobile devices for corporate entities and will revoke apps and data. But in that case, a user is using a device on behalf of a company and is sort of giving up the rights. This on a consumer basis, man, that makes me super nervous.
I doubt this is going to allay your nervousness, but Files Go has to be installed by you. It's not something that Google puts on there. And you can turn this good morning message auto deletion on or off. If you find that it's not working well or it's deleting things you shouldn't, you can turn it off. And you can always recover the data within a certain period of time and undelete. So at least that's my understanding about it. So it's a lot less sophisticated than the mobile device management stuff that you're talking about.
Well, I guess
go ahead, Myke.
I say it makes me feel a little bit better, but again, it's a lot of time without knowing the specifics of the tech. I won't be fully calm, but that definitely still, it's a line in, man, and that's kind of nervous making.
Well, I understand, but also you have to consider the alternative, which is those phones that have a little bit less storage get filled up. And if you want to free up the memory, you have to go in and decide each photo you want to delete. And most of them are going to be good morning photos. So even if Google gets it 95% right or 98% right, I think most people, the alternative is probably worse for the usage of those phones that are completely unusable.
Yeah. Why not a rules-based system like Microsoft Outlook? Why can't the user set a rules-based system that says, only keep...
Well, this is actually fairly similar to that. It's just operated by Google instead of Microsoft, but the rules are also using a little bit of machine learning algorithm to make the rules more robust. I know I'm not going to control. I'm not even trying to. I'm just trying to come up with the other side of this.
I want control.
I want someone to start sending me good morning memes.
All right.
It seems
Starting
friendly
tomorrow, Sarah.
and conversational.
Just start making some friends in India. I think it'll be fun.
I don't use WhatsApp. So.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to our Daily Tech Headlines show, available on the Amazon Echo, the Google Home, on the Anchor app, and at dailytechheadlines.com. All right, so we gave you the bona fides for Myke at the top of the show. And Myke, you think that one of the biggest security issues for law enforcement has more to do with the public relations, and not PR, public relations is the wrong word, but the way that people interact with each other rather than just the technical side of things. Do I have that right?
You do. It's what I call public report. And this is not a new idea. There's a famous police innovator in the 19th century in London called Sir Robert Peel. And he established these 9 principles of policing. And I'm not going to put you to sleep reading off all 9 of them to you. But the basic concept that Peel originated, which is still really, really popular in police circles, at least in Europe, but also in the United States, is this idea of policing by consent. And let me give you an idea of what I mean. You take a city like New York, there's what, 9 million people here or something like that? And I think the uniform population of the police here is around, if you count in, Jersey and Port Authority and whatnot, you're talking maybe 40, 50,000 uniformed officers. You cannot police 9 million people. No matter how well armed the police are, no matter how much power they have, you can't police 9 million people with 40,000 if those people don't want to be policed. They must consent to be policed. They must cooperate with being policed. That means they must report crime. They must act as intelligence sources. They must welcome the police into their communities and assist them. They must treat the police like fellow citizens in order for policing to get done. And this is something that police departments across the world understand. That's why you're always hearing about community policing. We're focusing on community policing. And I'd like to point out that New York City is one of the safest cities in the world because of that focus, making sure that police are seen as citizens, that they are in neighborhoods, that they are connecting to the public, and that they are constantly establishing that rapport that creates trust. And I think that more than anything, and one of the things I didn't mention in my bona fides was I did patrol law enforcement with the Coast Guard for many years. So and I guess cops drive around and pull over cars. I drove around and pulled over boats. But the principles are the same. And the most important thing you can do in order to really have robust crime prevention and do it safely is have a great relationship, in my case, with the boating public, where I was policing. So
the question we grapple with on this show, and we've done whole shows about this issue, so I don't want to get too sidetracked into the mechanics of it, but is the encryption debate and the balance between law enforcement's needs to see what's on devices in order to make a case or to even investigate a case versus our rights as citizens to have something that's private and that's locked up. And the debate seems to be on the law enforcement side. Yes, you can have your locks as long as we can get into all of them. And the debate on the encryption professional side is you can't make a lock that only you can get into. If you break it for you, you break it for everyone. How do you see this debate?
I mean, this is maybe going to surprise you since I've being in law enforcement, as I agree with the encryption side. You cannot compromise encryption and keep that strictly in the hands of government. It is not going to happen. It isn't possible for it to happen. And I think that to say differently is to fundamentally misunderstand encryption technology. That's not really the reasoning, though. The reasoning that I think affects me more, and keep in mind, I want to see law enforcement be successful. I want to see us catch bad guys. I want us to see us stop computer crimes. And I believe that the same report and the same community policing approach that exists in the non-cyber world is just as relevant in the cyber world. If you go on Slashdot, if you go on Ars, if you go on Boing Boing, if you go on The Verge, on Reddit, how are people talking about law enforcement? They're not loving us, right? They're not saying great things. That report is damaged. And when that report is damaged, you don't get intelligence sources. You don't get people cooperating. It's no secret that law enforcement organizations have a horrible time recruiting skilled IT professionals to work in cyber units. And part of that are issues I'm sure you already know about, like pay. But other issues are reputation. A lot of people don't want to work for law enforcement because they make arguments like the argument that the Bureau made, wanting a compromised version of Apple's iOS because they could be trusted to keep it safe. And that's assuming that the public doesn't know about Robert Hansen, that the public doesn't know about the OPM breach that resulted in my security clearance information being in the hands of the Chinese government.
Too, yeah.
Is smart, and the public knows these things. So I think that one of the leaps that I would love to see law enforcement make writ large is understanding that that same approach to community policing that happens on the street has to happen in cyberspace too. The tech world, the world of hackers, to view law enforcement differently. And as long as we approach it as it's just another tool and we're going to bludgeon our way through it, we're going to continue being on the outs, and we're going to be cut off from talent, but we're also going to be cut off from the kind of cooperation that we really, really need to make progress in the field.
Now, given that, one of our listeners thought it would be interesting to find out if there are ways to use traditional pre-cyber surveillance techniques to augment cyber efforts. Like, for instance, he says, do you really use spyware, or is that just in the movies? And I think what he's asking is, do you need to crack into the phone, or is there a way to use the more traditional rapport type elements that you're talking about in cyberspace?
Well, so, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to comment on any specific, what we call TTPs, tactics, techniques, or procedures that are used in law enforcement. But I will say that, yes, it depends. It's really a case-by-case basis. And there's a lot of investigations that you work or problems you're trying to solve where there is a rapport-based solution. Though that I really want to emphasize, and this has been true across the board, and you don't need me to tell you this. You can read a lot of cases. They are solved by people coming forward and providing information. And that relationship with the public is absolutely critical, and it's critical across all aspects of law enforcement. I firmly believe that. So
let's finish off talking about surveillance and a little bit about what's the need to find out about other folks, particularly in the U.S. We have the situation where you can find out what I'm saying to Patrick Beja because Patrick's in another country. When is that needed? How much is needed? How do you feel about the latitude that is being given there?
So, I mean, I feel that it is needed, right? I'm certainly not some privacy extremist to the point where there are legitimate times and occasions and reasons where surveillance is needed. There are times and reasons where, with the supervision of a court system, law enforcement professionals and intelligence professionals in some cases need access to private communications in order to prevent crime or in order to prevent international terrorist incidents. But the thing I want to keep emphasizing is that the public's perception of that process impacts the result of that process. So when you are considering what laws you push for, and when you are considering how you address public concerns over those laws, you need to be thinking about how the public's reaction to it will impact your ability to continue to prosecute cases. So, for example, if you're able to hammer through some kind of, some kind of backdoor, some kind of catch-all surveillance mechanism that alienates the public to the point where you lose all cooperation and you lose all sources, where that consent is withdrawn, the damage that is done to law enforcement cases and intelligence cases can exceed the benefit you get from the technology that I really want people to consider.
Unfortunately, it seems like we're in a situation where a politician trying to put forward this kind of argument would be about as popular as Prime Minister Robert Peel trying to repeal the Corn Laws in the 19th century. Like, it's just not very popular.
You know, you're a Peel guy. You're a Peel student, I could see. Yeah, I mean, it isn't. And we definitely live in a climate where fear is really, really pegged right now. And it's going to take some bold people to make that case. But I think that the case ultimately wins itself because it's an officer safety case and it's a success in prosecution case. The argument I'm making is a civil liberties argument and is a way I want to live argument. But you can even put that argument aside and argue from the point of law enforcement effectiveness. That, look, Peel's argument about policing by consent was a practical argument. This is an effective way to police London. This is an effective way to police a society. And I think that argument ultimately wins out because it's correct.
Yeah. If you get people on your side, that helps. Yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
As tech literate people, which people who listen to this show usually are, I guess part of this making this understandable to people falls on some of the community. What can we do to get people's mind in the right place for this to not be the usual political trapping that it is, and saying, you know, encryption is the work of the devil and we should break it down for everyone? Like, what can the community of people who listen to this show and who are tech literate do for that?
It's a tough question. It's a tough question, but if I could do two things, if I could have two things, one thing is I really do feel like at least in social media and on the tech blogs and in the tech community, there is an anti-law enforcement sentiment, and I don't think it's always deserved. And I would love to see the tech community engaging positively with law enforcement outside the kinds of things where law enforcement is having to go to Twitter or Facebook to get information. And I am talking about those communities like Reddit and how people are interacting on Twitter. The other thing I would really love to do is see people getting involved in law enforcement and tech. It is really, really, when people think about, where they're going to do their summer internships or where they're going to do their public service, they're thinking about the Peace Corps, or they're thinking about Teach for America. It's so rare that we get people with real tech skills coming into police forces and being part of that culture. And the other thing is, I understand that the military, intelligence services, and law enforcement are conservative cultures, right? They do change slowly. Tech tends to be really fast moving. There tends to be sometimes social conflicts with those communities. But the reality of it is those social conflicts cannot be unwound unless those communities interact. And someone has to be willing to step into that gap. So I would love to see people in the tech community coming and interning, coming in and doing information exchanges, and also giving us more the benefit of the doubt in social media and on forums when they interact with us.
All right. Well, we could talk about this all day. We're going to have to bring you back, Myke, or maybe even do a DTNS Labs episode where we could expand on this. But thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit and helps us come up with these kinds of topics. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Real quickly, let's check the mailbag, Sarah.
Tom and Veronica and I were talking yesterday, like, why would a fitness tracking app or some sort of, app that's meant to be good information that's health related get pulled from the market? Dennis B wrote on our blog, I'm a radiologist and actually am reading a lower extremity Doppler exam right now, which made me think of the show. When a person is getting information on something like pulse wave velocity readings would be usually pretty innocuous, right? Possibly helpful, but also possibly detrimental. A big problem in the medical imaging industry is unnecessary further testing. This can simply mean wasted money, but it can also mean a patient getting invasive exams and procedures for something the patient never even had symptoms for. Can't really see a patient's primary care physician getting presented with this data and then feeling obliged to order then a big diagnostic ultrasound, for example, then that shows findings. Then the patient sent to a vascular specialist for more tests, possible intervention, all because the bathroom scale said something, even though the patient never truly had any complaints and possibly never would, which is a really good point.
Yeah. So this is the radiologist basically saying, look, the heart rate on your watch, doctors are used to that and they can double check that easily. If the patient says, hey, I had this reading on my Nokia scale, their next step is like, well, we should check that. Whereas before they may not have known that. Now you can make the argument that might catch something important too, but I guess what the FDA was saying is that scale isn't certified to be worth that yet. So let's hold off.
Right. Then again, we also had an email recently from somebody who said that his Apple Watch told him he was having a heart attack. And then the doctor was like, yeah, you were.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that is approved. That's an approved use of that.
Good stuff, though. Good stuff. Thanks, Dennis. Always nice to get an opinion from somebody who's actually in the medical industry. I heard help us understand this stuff. Thanks to Patrick Beja, of course, for being here. As you always are on Tuesdays, we were worried that you wouldn't be here today, but you were able to be here.
Well, I probably won't be here next Tuesday. So, I had to at least show up once.
For your wife's sake, we hope not. Yes.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, if you want to keep up with my daily wonderings about pregnancy and labor, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm not Patrick on there. And if you want to listen to my shows, there's, among others, Pixels, which is a show about gaming. You can find at FrenchSpin.com or on your podcast listening app. You can search for Pixels, find the pinkish logo, and subscribe, and you'll have all of the episodes.
Excellent. And thanks also to Myke Cole for being here with us. And I echo Tom's sentiment that we should just get you on and you should talk to us for a very long time about all these things that you're so good at. But in the meantime, tell folks where they can keep up with some of your latest work.
Well, thanks. You can go to my website at mykecole.com. That's spelled MYKECOLE. You can follow me on Twitter at Myke Cole, spelled the same way. And my next novel, The Armored Saint, will be coming out from tour on February 20th, wherever fine books are sold.
Excellent. Go check it out, folks. It's good stuff. And check out our Patreon. We've got lots of cool perks over there, and we're getting close to the end of the month. So we're in our push to make sure we have more patrons than last month, and you could be part of that. You could be part of the push. If you're not already supporting us, go check it out, patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We love to hear from you, so keep them coming. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com.
I'll be out tomorrow, but Scott Johnson will be here with Sarah and Roger. Talk to you then. They will.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That was great. Thank you, Myke.
Thanks, guys.
I hope my internet was fine for you guys, because there were some chunks during the show where I was like, hope no one's asking me a question. Can't hear anything.
Okay, because right at the end, there seemed to be a little bit. Right at the end, there seemed to be a little bit of like a half beat longer for you to respond than usual. And that's probably what it was.
Okay, well, you know what I will do tomorrow, because Tom, I still have your Ethernet connector. Mm-hmm. Don't let me claim that as my own. It's yours, but it's in my possession.
That's why I wrote my name.
I'll plug into Ethernet tomorrow, because I can't.
Nice.
When that happens, I'd go crazy.
And Myke,
that was super awesome, though.
Yeah, that was great. We stick around on the pre-show while we publish the show and just chat. But you leave whenever you need to leave. Don't feel like you have to stick around, but you're welcome to if you want.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Well, I think I might have to leave, however, and check. No. Just check. She said she was going to try and sleep for a little bit. So,
all right,
just a lot of that.
Yeah, no, thanks for being on, Patrick, though. It was good. It's
sure,
good
it was fun. It was great. And thanks, Myke. It was really nice meeting you.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, too. And I look forward to seeing baby pictures at some point, right? Hopefully I'll...
Sure. And whenever you come through Helsinki, let me know. We'll go have coffee in a frozen wasteland. Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye.
All right. Titles.
Yeah, what should we name the show?
What could go wrong? Rapport-based solutions. Anthony says no to Twitter.
No, because his name is Noto. I get it.
Yeah, no to Twitter. No to Twitter.
Ah. Aha. No, it's not.
Snapping out of Snapchat. Where did the files go? Way to flick. Flick bait.
What the flick? Yeah, there's lots of flick puns in here.
Let's catch a flick.
Yeah.
PR : public report. You have the right to be reported.
Come on.
File.
Cyber by consent.
That's good.
By consent.
If you want to go to showbot.chatroom.net, people suggest our titles during the show in our chat room. That's where Roger's reading from.
Oh, very cool.
They put them in there.
Roger's not just coming up with these off the top of his head.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm exporting.
All right, guys. I will go about my business. Thank you very, very much for having this. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you, Myke.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for being here.
And if there's ever anything I can do, I mean, even if I'm not on the show, if you want me to pump something or whatever, just whistle in my direction.
Excellent.
Are you guys going to be at either like Seattle Comic-Con or Phoenix Comic-Con or Dragon Con or Con? There's an outside possibility of Dragon Con every year because we used to go all the time. I'd love to get to Phoenix Comic-Con if I could figure it out. It's just always ends up being at the same weekend as I've got something else going on. So, but I'll let you know. I know Sam Sykes, who I know knows and likes you, is sort of like a de facto unofficial programming guy there. So if you want, I can certainly make arrangements through him and make that happen. So we'd love to see you and love to see Veronica and love to see you guys too if you feel like going to a nerd convention anytime.
I used to go to them all the time.
Well, thanks a lot.
No, thank you for being on the show.
Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off.
All right, thanks, Myke.
See you.
See you later.
Thank you again.
Bye. My pleasure.
He was talking to you guys.
Yes.
What's that?
He was also talking to you guys about the conferences.
Yeah, no, that's right. You didn't hear me reply to him?
I heard you say, yeah, I used to go all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'd love to. I have the same problem Tom does. Like, if I'm not busy, sounds great. What I also have a problem with is, I'm using someone's office, right? This is not just like my area.
Yeah.
And there's a glass door and I'm getting the stink eye.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's okay, luckily we shouldn't have this problem tomorrow because we've got a boardroom that's that we've reserved, so I won't be in here. But I think I should probably bounce so that I still have friends.
No problem.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
All right. Talk to you tomorrow. Well, you'll talk to them tomorrow, but have a good show tomorrow.
What could go wrong?
I've already used rapport-based security solutions because I couldn't wait.
Okay.
Yeah. That was good though. I thought Myke was fantastic, and I really would like. This is an example of, there are topics that, I mean, this was fine. It worked well, but man, we could have talked about more. And
I think it would have been a really good roundtable.
Would have been a good roundtable. Yeah. Give it a little more air to breathe. Or I was even thinking of its own labs episode where we just kind of have an open-ended conversation. The roundtable would be really good too, because then you can get a couple more.
You get like that interaction. I think that's a topic like that like screams for.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take us off because I've got to get going myself to shoot some Tech Republic videos. But yeah, don't forget, Roundtable this Friday is Shannon Morse and Chris Ashley.
I just want to say Big Chris, but that would be wrong because that's something from SNL.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Bye.